Have you ever felt that sudden shift in a relationship, where everything felt promising one moment and then, without warning, the connection seems to fade away? It's a feeling that leaves you wondering what changed, and sometimes it even hurts a little. Today, we're talking about a situation many of us have experienced, when someone you care about starts to distance themselves, and it feels like the warmth you once shared is slipping away. This isn't about blame or criticism, it's about understanding the subtle signals that lead to that unexpected gap, and how you can find strength through Stoic wisdom. Before we continue, I'd really appreciate it if you liked the video, and if you haven't already, please hit that subscribe button so you never miss out on any of the Stoic wisdom coming your way. I truly value every one of you who stops by, and it feels like we're having a friendly chat about something that matters deeply. Imagine a time when the connection was clear and the conversations flowed effortlessly, when every word exchanged felt meaningful and full of promise. Then, gradually, you notice small changes. Her responses become a bit shorter, her laughter less frequent, and the spark in her eyes seems to fade ever so slightly. These moments, though they might seem insignificant at first, can add up until you're left wondering if the distance is growing intentionally or if it's just a phase. You see, relationships are like intricate dances. Sometimes the steps become misaligned without us even realizing it. Often, the distance isn't a sign that something is fundamentally wrong with you. It's a signal that the balance in the relationship has shifted. It could be due to changes in behavior, subtle shifts in priorities, or even a growing need for personal space. Whatever the reason, it's important to understand that these changes are part of a natural rhythm, one that, when recognized, offers you a chance to learn and grow. What I want to share with you today is how embracing Stoic principles can help navigate these uncertain moments. Instead of reacting with confusion or desperation, you can choose to see these signals as opportunities to focus on your own inner strength. By understanding that the power to shape your emotional well-being lies within you, you become better equipped to maintain your sense of self, regardless of external changes. Think of this as a journey, a chance to reflect on your own behavior and to cultivate a more balanced, resilient outlook. It's about learning to appreciate the importance of self-respect and independence, so that even when things seem to drift apart, you remain grounded in who you are. I'd love to hear your thoughts on this. Have you ever experienced that moment when someone you cared about suddenly seemed distant? Feel free to share your story in the comments below. Your insights could be just what someone else needs to hear. Let's explore how we can transform these challenges into opportunities for personal growth, using timeless Stoic wisdom as our guide. Let's talk about why women suddenly lose interest. Sometimes it seems like everything is going well, fun conversations, shared laughter, a connection that feels promising. Then, in a subtle shift, there's a distance that creeps in, leaving you wondering what changed. It might feel like the spark you once enjoyed is slowly dimming without any dramatic reason. I know it might be tough to accept, but often it's not one single mistake that causes this shift. It's a series of small, almost unnoticed behaviors that add up over time. Consider moments when communication starts to feel less vibrant. In the beginning, every conversation feels engaging and full of energy, but gradually, replies become shorter and tones more neutral. This isn't necessarily a sign of disinterest. It could be that the excitement of discovery has worn off. When everything becomes too familiar, the natural curiosity that once fueled the connection may fade. This slow shift can make the relationship feel like it's stuck on repeat, with little room left for growth or excitement. One behavior that often plays a role is the habit of being overly available. When you're constantly in touch, it can sometimes create an unintended pressure. Sharing every detail of your day may come from a place of genuine care, but it can also give the impression that there's no room for her own thoughts or experiences. It's like turning the volume up so high that the natural rhythm of the relationship gets drowned out. Maintaining a bit of space is important. It leaves room for anticipation and the excitement of waiting to reconnect. Another key factor is the gradual loss of mystery. Early on, the unknown is intriguing. Each new conversation, each shared secret builds a sense of anticipation. But if you reveal too much too soon or too often, that mystery evaporates. The element of surprise is what keeps things exciting and fresh. Without it, the relationship can settle into a pattern that feels more routine than remarkable. It's not that you're doing something inherently wrong, but rather that the dynamic of discovery has shifted into one of predictability. And predictability can sometimes lead to disengagement. Respect is another cornerstone that can be affected by everyday habits. Respect isn't just about grand declarations or dramatic gestures. It's woven into how you interact in daily moments. Simple actions, like actively listening or acknowledging her opinions, build a foundation of mutual esteem. When those small gestures falter, perhaps unintentionally interrupting or dismissing her thoughts, it chips away at that foundation. Over time, she may feel that her feelings aren't being honored, which can lead to a withdrawal of interest. It's a reminder that the details matter, and maintaining respect is crucial for keeping the connection alive. Emotional independence plays a vital role too. In a balanced relationship, both people have their own passions, interests, and sources of fulfillment. When one partner becomes overly reliant on the other for emotional support or validation, the balance tips. Relying too much on someone can create a sense of suffocation, even if your intentions are loving. It's important to nurture your own well-being so that the relationship remains a source of shared joy rather than a one-sided dependency. Cultivating your individual interests not only boosts your confidence, but also makes the time you spend together more enriching. Communication, or the lack thereof, can subtly shift the dynamics. When conversations start to feel forced or monotonous, the natural connection may begin to wane. There's a time when sharing thoughts feels effortless, and then gradually it becomes a duty rather than a delight. When genuine, heartfelt exchanges become few and far between, it creates a gap that's hard to bridge. Often, it's not the absence of words, but the absence of meaning behind them. Listening with intent and speaking with honesty can help keep the bond strong, even when life gets busy. Energy also plays a significant role in how relationships evolve. The overall vibe you bring, your mood, your stress levels, and your general outlook impacts how your partner feels around you. If you're frequently caught up in worries or negative self-talk, that energy can seep into your interactions. It's like a shadow that dulls the brightness of your connection. On the other hand, when you invest in your own mental and emotional well-being, it creates a positive atmosphere that draws people in. Embracing practices that help you stay centered can make a world of difference in maintaining a healthy relationship dynamic. Sometimes, the pattern of distancing is not even about something you did. It could be about where she is on her own journey. Life is full of changes, personal growth, shifting priorities, and evolving needs. At times, she might need space to focus on her own challenges, to re-establish her independence, or simply to rediscover who she is outside the relationship. In such cases, the distance is not a rejection of you, but a reflection of her internal process. Recognizing this can be both humbling and enlightening. It reminds you that relationships are a dance of two independent lives coming together, and sometimes that dance requires a pause. It's also worth noting that repeated patterns of over-eagerness or over-commitment can sometimes obscure your true self. When you're too busy trying to maintain the connection, you might inadvertently lose sight of who you are. This can lead to a scenario where the relationship becomes less about a genuine connection and more about filling a void. It's essential to strike a balance between showing care and preserving your individuality. The strength of a relationship often lies in how well both partners can support each other's growth while remaining true to themselves. These insights might sound challenging, but understanding these dynamics is the first step toward creating a more balanced and fulfilling connection. Recognizing that a gradual shift can be the result of many small factors allows you to reflect on your own behavior without falling into self-blame. It's about seeing the relationship as a living, breathing thing that evolves with time and attention. By tuning into these subtle cues, you give yourself the opportunity to adjust your approach and foster an environment where respect, curiosity, and independence flourish. Take a moment to reflect on the moments when the connection seemed to falter. It might help to look at these experiences not as failures, but as lessons, opportunities to learn more about how both partners can contribute to a relationship that remains vibrant and engaging. Every interaction, every small gesture matters. By paying attention to these details, you can find ways to nurture a bond that withstands the inevitable shifts that come with time. Ultimately, understanding why women might suddenly lose interest is about embracing the complexities of human connection. It's a reminder that every relationship has its rhythms, and that sometimes what feels like a distancing isn't an end at all. It's an invitation to grow. When you take these moments as opportunities to improve communication, maintain respect, and honor your own individuality, you set the stage for a deeper, more resilient connection. Every step you take in this direction enriches not only your relationships, but also your own personal journey of growth and self-discovery. Here's something interesting about neediness and insecurity. When you find yourself constantly seeking reassurance, it can create a pressure that neither of you intended. Neediness and insecurity, while they often come from a place of caring deeply, can slowly push someone away. You might be reaching out for connection without even realizing that in doing so, you're leaving little space for both of you to breathe. I know it might be tough to accept, but these behaviors can set the stage for distance in a relationship. Picture a scenario where your heart is full and you're eager to share every detail of your day. You send multiple texts, hoping to maintain a constant connection. In your mind, every message is a small expression of love. However, when the communication becomes too frequent, it can feel overwhelming. Instead of feeling cherished, she might start to feel smothered. When you start relying too heavily on her attention, it can give the impression that your happiness depends entirely on her responses. Consider a time when you sent a flurry of messages throughout the day, expecting immediate replies, only to be met with silence or delayed responses. That silence might leave you feeling anxious and even more desperate for validation. In that moment, each unanswered text can amplify your insecurity. Over time, this cycle of constant checking and reassurance seeking turns into a pattern. Instead of nurturing the bond between you, it creates an imbalance where she might feel pressured to be constantly available. Eventually, that pressure could lead her to withdraw. It's important to remember that while it's natural to crave connection, there's a fine line between caring and clinging. When you're too eager for affirmation, it can signal that you're not fully comfortable on your own. And that discomfort shows. Emotional independence is a quality that not only enriches your own life, but also adds a subtle, attractive confidence to your presence. When you're secure in who you are, your interactions feel lighter, more genuine, and less like a desperate plea for attention. Imagine if, instead of reaching out every minute, you allowed yourself a pause, a moment to reflect on your own day, to immerse yourself in your hobbies, or simply to enjoy being by yourself. That pause is not a sign of disinterest. Rather, it creates a space where both partners can thrive independently. It's a reminder that while togetherness is valuable, having a life outside the relationship enriches the connection. Over time, developing this kind of independence can help ease the anxiety that comes with feeling insecure. I remember a story of a friend who once felt compelled to be in constant contact with his partner. He believed that every moment without a message or a call meant that something was amiss. Yet as time went by, his constant need for communication began to weigh on their relationship. His partner started to feel that she had no room to breathe, no space to process her own thoughts, or simply enjoy a moment of quiet. When the balance tips too far, it often leaves the other person feeling trapped, which is rarely conducive to a healthy relationship dynamic. In our journey through relationships, there's a delicate balance between expressing love and maintaining personal space. When one partner becomes overly dependent on the other for emotional fulfillment, it's not only exhausting for them, but also creates a cycle that's hard to break. Instead of celebrating small moments of connection, every gap in communication turns into a source of anxiety. That constant loop of seeking reassurance can eventually diminish the natural joy of simply being together. The key lies in finding that middle ground. Consider setting aside time for yourself, nurturing interests that make you feel whole independently. It might be picking up a hobby, spending time with friends, or even indulging in quiet moments of self-reflection. By investing in yourself, you reinforce your own sense of worth and create a reservoir of strength that doesn't rely solely on your partner. This personal growth not only makes you feel better, but also sends a positive message that you value your own well-being. There's also value in communicating your feelings in a calm and measured way. Rather than repeatedly asking for validation, try to express your need for reassurance in a way that invites understanding. You could say something like, "I sometimes feel a bit anxious when I don't hear from you, and I'm working on feeling more secure on my own." This approach is gentle. It doesn't place undue responsibility on her, yet it opens the door for a supportive conversation about both of your needs. Insecurity at its core is often about fear. Fear of not being enough, fear of being alone, or fear of losing something precious. These fears can drive us to act in ways that ironically distance the very person we care about. When you're caught in that cycle, it can feel like no matter how much you try to prove your worth, it's never enough. But the truth is, true value comes from within. It's cultivated by recognizing that your worth isn't determined by constant external validation. Sometimes, the behaviors fueled by insecurity are subtle. It might be that nervous energy that makes you overanalyze every word she says, or a tendency to take a delayed response as a personal slight. This kind of self-doubt can color your interactions, making even innocent moments seem charged with uncertainty. And when these feelings build up, they create an environment where genuine connection is overshadowed by a need for continuous reassurance. I recall another situation, a couple who were once very in sync. Over time, however, one partner began to feel that every little pause in conversation was a sign that something was wrong. The person who was constantly seeking confirmation found themselves in a spiral of overthinking. What began as a desire to feel closer transformed into a habit of checking in excessively, leaving little room for natural ebb and flow. The constant need for affirmation became a barrier rather than a bridge, leading to a growing sense of imbalance in the relationship. Recognizing these patterns is an essential step toward change. It's about being honest with yourself and understanding that while connection is important, it must be balanced with a healthy dose of self-reliance. Every time you catch yourself in a loop of neediness, remind yourself that taking a step back is not a sign of weakness. It's a chance to regroup and rebuild your inner confidence. Overcoming these challenges isn't an overnight process. It's a journey of small, mindful steps that gradually lead you to a more balanced and fulfilling way of relating. Start by embracing moments of solitude, viewing them as opportunities to recharge rather than gaps to be filled. Celebrate your own achievements, however minor they may seem, and let those moments reinforce your self-worth. As you build this inner reservoir of strength, you'll find that your need for constant validation diminishes, replaced by a quiet confidence that speaks for itself. Remember that the goal isn't to shut out your partner or to create distance intentionally. It's about creating space for both individuals to flourish. When you nurture your own interests and invest in your personal growth, you contribute positively to the relationship. It transforms the dynamic from one of dependency to one of mutual support and respect. The freedom to be yourself becomes a powerful ingredient in building a connection that's both deep and resilient. So if you ever find yourself overwhelmed by the urge to check in constantly or feeling anxious over small silences, take a deep breath and give yourself permission to relax. Trust that a healthy relationship has room for pauses, moments that allow both of you to reflect, recharge, and come back together with renewed energy. Over time, these changes can lead to a more natural, balanced, and enjoyable connection for both of you. In the end, the impact of neediness and insecurity is not a reflection of how much you care, but rather an opportunity to grow stronger as an individual. By focusing on building your own inner confidence and embracing the natural rhythm of connection, you create a space where love can thrive without being overshadowed by constant anxiety. Every step you take in this direction enriches not only your own life, but also the quality of the relationships you cherish. Consider this: respect is the very heartbeat of attraction. Respect is at the core of any strong connection, a force that draws people together and makes interactions feel meaningful. When respect is present, it creates an atmosphere where both partners feel valued and empowered. But when that respect begins to slip away, everything can change in an instant. If you're wondering why she suddenly seems distant, it might be because the dynamic between you two has shifted. When a woman senses that her thoughts or feelings are being overlooked or dismissed, she may start to pull away, looking for a connection where her worth is truly recognized. Imagine the early days of a relationship, where every conversation is filled with genuine interest and thoughtful gestures. In those moments, you're not just talking, you're listening, engaging, and affirming each other's ideas. That kind of behavior naturally commands respect and builds trust. Over time, however, the energy can start to fade if one partner stops maintaining that same level of engagement. It could be as subtle as always agreeing to avoid conflict or not standing up for your own opinions. When that happens, the respectful energy that once fueled the attraction begins to dissipate, leaving her with a feeling that something important is missing. Think about a time when you felt truly valued by someone, when your opinions were not only heard, but celebrated. That feeling is incredibly powerful. It makes you feel secure, respected, and more connected. Now consider what happens when that respect is compromised. Maybe it's a situation where a man starts becoming overly predictable, always playing it safe, and never challenging the status quo. Instead of sparking curiosity and admiration, that predictability can make the relationship feel stale. When the dynamic shifts from one of vibrant, mutual respect to one of complacency, she might begin to lose interest. I know it might be hard to hear, but respect isn't just about the big moments. It's found in the everyday actions, the way you listen when she speaks, the tone you use during a disagreement, and how confidently you express your thoughts. When you let those small, seemingly insignificant moments slide, they can add up over time, and the cumulative effect is a loss of the respect that forms the foundation of a strong bond. If you start finding it easier to go along with everything instead of expressing your true self, she might notice that change and feel less drawn to you. Let's pause for a moment and reflect on the importance of authenticity. Authenticity and respect go hand in hand. When you stand by your beliefs and communicate honestly, you not only honor yourself, but also create a space where both of you can thrive. On the other hand, if you constantly suppress your own opinions or let your guard down too much, it can signal that you're not fully confident in who you are. This loss of self-assurance can undermine the respectful dynamic that once existed between you. It's not about being confrontational or argumentative. It's about maintaining a balance that honors both your needs and hers. Consider another scenario. During a disagreement, instead of calmly explaining your viewpoint, you might find yourself quickly retreating or agreeing just to keep the peace. While avoiding conflict can sometimes be beneficial, overdoing it might suggest that you're not comfortable asserting your perspective. In those moments, the respectful energy is compromised, and she may begin to feel that her opinions are not being met with the same level of passion or conviction. Over time, this pattern can erode the connection, leaving both partners feeling undervalued. There's also the role of consistency in building respect. Respect isn't something that can be earned with one grand gesture. It's the result of consistent behavior over time. Every time you actively listen, stand by your principles, or even challenge a situation with calm determination, you reinforce a foundation of respect. But if those behaviors become rare, the foundation begins to crack. It's a gradual process that can be hard to notice until you realize the connection isn't as strong as it once was. Reflect on a time when you observed a balanced relationship, where both individuals maintained their integrity while supporting each other. That balance is incredibly appealing because it shows strength, confidence, and a mutual understanding of boundaries. When either partner starts to drift away from that balance, it can lead to feelings of dissatisfaction. A lack of respect, even in small doses, can have a significant impact over time. It's a reminder that every interaction matters and that respect should be nurtured continuously. If you ever sense that the dynamic has shifted, take a moment to look inward. Ask yourself whether you're still engaging with the same level of authenticity and confidence as before. Are you comfortable expressing your true thoughts, even when they might not align with hers? These reflections are crucial because they can help you identify the subtle shifts that might be causing her to distance herself. It's about recognizing that while relationships naturally evolve, there's always an opportunity to reinforce the core values that brought you together in the first place. Ultimately, respect is not just a byproduct of attraction, it is the foundation. Without it, even the most passionate connections can begin to fade. It's important to consistently invest in behaviors that build mutual respect. Clear communication, active listening, and standing firm in your values. By doing so, you create an environment where both partners feel secure and valued, paving the way for a deeper and more resilient connection. Take this insight to heart. Look at your daily interactions and consider how you might bring more authenticity and assertiveness into your conversations. Every step you take towards maintaining respect is a step towards sustaining that magnetic attraction. And when respect remains at the core of your relationship, it sets the stage for a connection that can endure even life's inevitable challenges. Let's explore how Stoic principles help in these situations. Stoic principles can be a powerful guide when you're facing the challenge of a woman distancing herself. Instead of reacting emotionally, try stepping back and focusing on what you can control. Stoicism teaches us that while we cannot always control what happens around us, we can certainly manage our own responses. When a partner pulls away, it can be tempting to spiral into worry or frustration. But a Stoic mindset reminds you that your inner peace is paramount. Imagine you're in a situation where the connection feels like it's fading. Rather than chasing after explanations or feeling desperate for reassurance, a Stoic approach encourages you to observe your feelings calmly. Think of it as taking a step back, pausing to reflect on the situation instead of getting swept away by emotion. You might say to yourself, "I can't control her actions, but I can control my reaction." That small shift in perspective can make all the difference. For example, consider a scenario where you notice she's been less responsive lately. Instead of flooding her with messages or demanding answers, take a moment to reflect on your own thoughts and feelings. Ask yourself, what do I truly need right now? This question helps you focus on your inner world rather than trying to change external circumstances. In this way, Stoicism empowers you to nurture your own emotional well-being, regardless of what's happening in the relationship. One real-world example comes from a well-known Stoic practice, negative visualization. This isn't about being pessimistic, it's about preparing yourself for life's uncertainties. Imagine for a moment that you might face rejection or withdrawal. By accepting that these challenges are a natural part of life, you reduce the shock and emotional turmoil when they occur. This practice doesn't make you indifferent. It simply equips you with a sense of resilience. When you expect that setbacks can happen, you're less likely to be caught off guard and more likely to maintain a balanced outlook. Another Stoic idea is the concept of focusing on what you can control. In a relationship, you have no control over someone else's feelings, but you do control your own actions, reactions, and thoughts. Instead of trying to force a connection or desperately seeking validation, channel your energy into personal growth. Whether it's picking up a new hobby, working on a fitness goal, or simply spending time in quiet reflection, these actions remind you that your value comes from within. By building your inner strength, you're better able to face external challenges without losing your sense of self. Let's take a moment here to consider how this mindset applies to everyday interactions. Suppose she withdraws emotionally and you feel a surge of anxiety or hurt. A Stoic response might be to pause and breathe, to allow yourself a few moments of silence before you act. In that silence, remind yourself that every emotion is temporary and that you have the power to choose your next step. Instead of letting immediate reactions dictate your behavior, use that pause as an opportunity to decide on a course of action that aligns with your values. This approach not only preserves your dignity, but also sets a positive example for how to handle emotional turbulence. Another important Stoic principle is the idea of acceptance. Accept that people have their own journeys, and sometimes that means they need space to grow independently. This isn't a sign of personal failure or a lack of attraction. It's simply part of the natural ebb and flow of relationships. By accepting this reality, you free yourself from the burden of trying to control something that isn't yours to command. Instead of feeling rejected, you can view the distance as an invitation to work on yourself. This shift in perspective turns a potentially painful experience into an opportunity for self-improvement. Consider a time when you felt emotionally raw because someone close to you began to pull away. It's easy to let that feeling spiral into self-doubt or resentment. However, by embracing the Stoic idea of focusing on your own inner life, you can find solace in knowing that your worth isn't determined by someone else's attention. Acknowledge the pain, then let it pass like a wave. Observe it, learn from it, and allow it to strengthen your resolve. This process can help you build resilience so that when future challenges arise, you're better equipped to handle them with grace. Stoicism also encourages you to reframe your thoughts. When faced with emotional withdrawal, rather than thinking, "She must not care about me anymore," you might reframe it as, "This is an opportunity to grow stronger and understand more about myself." Such reframing transforms a potentially negative experience into a catalyst for personal development. It's a gentle reminder that every setback carries the seeds of growth, provided you're willing to see it that way. A key element of this practice is self-reflection. Take some time, perhaps at the end of the day, to reflect on your actions and emotions. Journaling can be a helpful tool here. Write down what you're feeling, why you might be feeling that way, and what you could do differently next time. Over time, this habit not only helps you process your emotions, but also builds a deeper awareness of your strengths and areas for improvement. By consistently practicing self-reflection, you create a personal roadmap for navigating the ups and downs of relationships with a clear, focused mind. There's also value in acknowledging the impermanence of every situation. In the grand scheme of life, no state is permanent. Relationships evolve, emotions fluctuate, and the challenges you face today are just part of a larger tapestry. Embracing this truth can lessen the intensity of your reactions. When you see a setback as a temporary state rather than an unchangeable truth, it becomes easier to maintain hope and confidence. This perspective is a cornerstone of Stoic thought. It reminds you that you have the power to adapt and overcome, no matter what life throws your way. As you incorporate these Stoic principles into your daily life, you'll likely notice a gradual shift in how you handle emotional challenges. Instead of reacting impulsively, you'll find yourself pausing, reflecting, and choosing responses that honor both your well-being and your values. This isn't an easy path. It takes practice and patience, but the rewards are immense. Not only do you become more resilient, but you also cultivate a sense of inner peace that enriches every aspect of your life. To sum it up, when a woman distances herself, it can trigger a range of emotions that feel overwhelming at first. But by applying Stoic principles, focusing on what you can control, accepting the natural flow of relationships, reframing your thoughts, and engaging in regular self-reflection, you equip yourself with tools to navigate these challenges with calm and confidence. Rather than being swept away by immediate reactions, you step into a space of empowerment where your value is defined by your inner strength and clarity. So the next time you face emotional withdrawal, pause and remember that you hold the power to choose your response. Embrace the teachings of Stoicism, let your inner wisdom guide you, and transform every setback into an opportunity for growth. With each step, you're not only nurturing your own well-being, you're also building a foundation for relationships that are rooted in mutual respect, understanding, and a shared journey of personal empowerment. Let's chat about real-life scenarios and how you can avoid them. Imagine you're chatting with a friend over coffee and you start sharing a story about how small habits can create big shifts in a relationship. One common scenario is over-texting. You might be excited and want to share every detail of your day, sending multiple messages in a row. At first, it feels natural and caring. But over time, those constant notifications can start to feel overwhelming. You may not even realize it. But when you start doing this consistently, it could make her lose interest. It's like having a conversation where every pause is filled with noise. She might begin to long for some quiet moments to reflect on her own day. Taking a step back to let the conversation breathe can create space for both of you to process and appreciate the connection. Now consider another example, being overly available. Picture a situation where you're always on call, ready to respond at any moment. It might seem thoughtful at first, but it can also signal that you have nothing else going on. Instead of coming across as engaged, this constant availability might make it seem like you're putting the relationship on your back burner. When you're always available, there's little room for anticipation or the natural ebb and flow that can make interactions more exciting. Reflect on it for a moment. A bit of mystery and independence can actually boost attraction. When you create a little space for yourself, it shows that you have your own life, interests, and passions. And that kind of balance is really appealing. Another scenario is losing confidence. Think about a time when you felt unsure of yourself. Maybe you started doubting your worth or stopped standing up for your own opinions. In relationships, confidence isn't just about being bold, it's about feeling secure in who you are. When that self-assurance starts to fade, the energy you bring to your interactions changes. You might find yourself second-guessing your decisions or hesitating to share your true thoughts. Over time, this lack of confidence can create an emotional distance. It sends a message that you're not comfortable in your own skin, and that can be a real turn-off. The key is to maintain that inner confidence, even on tough days. When you do, it keeps the connection vibrant and helps you feel more grounded. Let's look at a situation many of us might relate to, trying too hard to please. You know the type. You're constantly adapting your opinions or changing your plans to fit what you think she wants. While being accommodating can be a positive trait, overdoing it might lead to a loss of your own identity. When you stop being true to yourself, the relationship becomes less about a genuine connection and more about a continuous performance. Over time, she might sense that something isn't quite authentic. That's when a little distance can form. Taking time to express your real self, even if it means occasional disagreements, can actually strengthen the bond because it shows that you're confident enough to be you. There's also the scenario where you might not notice the impact of small, everyday behaviors. For instance, constantly checking in throughout the day might seem caring, but it can also be a subtle form of neediness. When every moment is filled with a quick text or a call, there's no room left for personal space. And personal space is important for both partners. It's the time when you can reflect, pursue your interests, and even miss each other a little. That feeling of missing someone is part of what builds anticipation and deepens attraction. When you fill every moment with constant contact, you might unintentionally remove that spark. Think back to a time when you were really into something, maybe a new hobby or project. That excitement comes from having a personal passion that energizes you. Now imagine if you had no time for that excitement because you were too focused on constantly monitoring your partner's responses. You might lose that spark, not only for yourself, but also in the relationship. It's important to strike a balance between being present and having your own space. By doing that, you not only keep your own interests alive, but also contribute to a healthier, more dynamic connection. Another scenario worth mentioning is the subtle shift in tone when you're stressed or anxious. If you're caught up in worries about the relationship, that tension can seep into your everyday interactions. Maybe you start to respond with a tone that feels defensive or overly sensitive, even when there's no clear reason. Over time, that can create a kind of emotional wall. She might begin to feel that conversations are no longer light and enjoyable, but instead are filled with underlying tension. Recognizing when stress is affecting your communication and taking a moment to breathe and reset can make a big difference. It's a small adjustment, but one that keeps the connection warmer and more inviting. Now consider what you might do to avoid these pitfalls. Start by giving yourself permission to slow down. Instead of reacting immediately, take a moment to reflect on whether your actions are coming from a place of genuine care or from a need to fill a void. That pause can be as simple as a deep breath before you send a message. It might seem small, but those moments of mindfulness can change the dynamic entirely. Allowing yourself to be a bit less available while still being attentive can build anticipation and make your presence feel more valuable. It also helps to set clear boundaries, both for yourself and within the relationship. Boundaries aren't about creating distance, they're about ensuring that both partners have room to grow. When you establish healthy boundaries, you signal that you respect both your own needs and hers. It's a way of saying, I care about you, and I also care about who I am. This balanced approach can prevent the kind of overdependence that often leads to emotional withdrawal. Finally, remind yourself to focus on the quality of your interactions rather than the quantity. A few thoughtful, meaningful conversations can be far more valuable than constant check-ins that eventually feel routine. When you invest in quality moments, you create memories that resonate and build a deeper connection. It's these moments that help both partners feel truly seen and valued. Reflect on these scenarios and ask yourself if any of these patterns have shown up in your own experiences. Every relationship is a learning process, and sometimes it's the small habits that make the biggest difference. By being mindful of your actions and taking deliberate steps to maintain your own individuality, you not only strengthen your connection, but also nurture a sense of self that remains vibrant regardless of the situation. In the end, understanding these real-life scenarios is about learning to balance care with independence. It's about finding that sweet spot where you're fully present and engaged, yet still allowing both you and your partner the space to grow. Every little change you make, from slowing down your responses to setting healthy boundaries, contributes to a richer, more fulfilling relationship. And that's a journey worth taking, one thoughtful step at a time. Let's focus on how to regain her interest. When things start to shift and you sense that she's pulling away, it's easy to feel lost or even desperate. But instead of chasing her, focus on yourself. That's where the real power lies. The key here is to tap into the principles of Stoicism, those timeless ideas that remind us that true strength comes from within. By working on self-improvement and emotional independence, you not only regain control over your own life, but also reignite the attraction in a natural, authentic way. Imagine this scenario. You notice that the connection isn't as vibrant as it once was. Maybe her messages become infrequent, or her tone seems distant. Instead of reacting with frustration or trying to win her back by constantly calling or texting, take a step back. Use that moment to evaluate your own inner world. Ask yourself, what can I control in this situation? The answer is always clear. You can control your actions, your thoughts, and your growth. Start by setting clear personal goals. Focus on areas of your life that you've perhaps neglected, whether it's your fitness, a passion project, or even learning a new skill. By dedicating time and energy to these pursuits, you're not only boosting your self-confidence, but you're also sending a strong message that your happiness doesn't solely depend on her attention. This isn't just about distraction, it's about building a richer, more fulfilled version of yourself. Think about it like this. When you're truly engaged in your own growth, you become more interesting and attractive. Women are naturally drawn to men who are confident, independent, and continuously striving to improve themselves. For example, one friend of mine started dedicating an hour every day to running and reading. Over time, he noticed that his overall energy changed. He became more confident, more centered, and ultimately more appealing. His focus on self-improvement didn't just help him feel better, it changed the dynamic in his relationship too. Another important aspect is developing emotional independence. It can be tempting to try and fix things immediately by reaching out repeatedly, but that often backfires. Instead, allow yourself some space to breathe and reflect. When you do this, you're showing that you're secure enough to give both yourself and her the freedom to miss each other. This subtle distance can often spark a renewed interest because it reminds her that you have a full, vibrant life that she's a part of, not the entirety of. It might feel counterintuitive at first, but stepping back can actually create an opportunity for reconnection. When you're not constantly trying to capture her attention, you become more magnetic. This isn't about playing games, it's about fostering a healthy balance where you value yourself enough to nurture your own interests. And as you focus on becoming the best version of yourself, you naturally create a space where she can see and appreciate that change. Let's talk about communication for a moment. When you regain her interest, it's important that your interactions reflect the changes you've made. Instead of bombarding her with messages that come off as neediness, try engaging in meaningful, thoughtful conversations. When you do talk to her, share insights from your personal growth, what you've learned, how you've evolved, and what new passions you've discovered. This approach not only shows that you're invested in your own development, but also invites her to engage with you on a deeper level. Here's a practical tip. Set small, achievable goals for yourself each week. These could be as simple as reading a book, hitting the gym regularly, or even dedicating time to a hobby you love. As you work on these goals, take a moment to reflect on your progress. Use a journal, or simply have a mental check-in with yourself. This practice will not only reinforce your sense of self-worth, but also build a reservoir of positive energy that can transform your interactions with others. It's also important to maintain a positive outlook. Sometimes, when she starts pulling away, it's easy to spiral into negative thinking, wondering what you did wrong or fearing that you're not enough. But remember, a Stoic perspective reminds you that setbacks are natural and often beyond your control. Instead of dwelling on what might have gone wrong, shift your focus to what you can do right now. Embrace the idea that every challenge is an opportunity to grow stronger. This mindset is incredibly powerful because it turns a potentially painful experience into a catalyst for self-improvement. Another real-life example comes to mind. I once knew a man who was so devastated when his partner started distancing herself that he nearly lost sight of who he was. Instead of trying to force her back into his life, he took that time to rebuild himself. He started exercising, reconnected with old friends, and even took up new hobbies. Over time, not only did he become happier and more self-assured, but he also found that the renewed energy made him even more attractive. His journey is a testament to the power of focusing on self-improvement rather than chasing after someone who has started to pull away. Moreover, remember that attraction isn't just about physical presence. It's deeply tied to emotional and mental vitality. When you're emotionally independent, you're less likely to be dragged down by every little setback. You learn to appreciate your own company, which in turn makes you more appealing to others. It shows that you're secure enough to not need constant validation from anyone else. This quality is incredibly attractive and can lead to a more balanced, fulfilling relationship in the long run. As you work on regaining her interest, keep in mind that the journey is as important as the destination. Each small step you take towards personal growth not only enhances your own life, but also improves your ability to connect with others. When you're grounded in who you are and confident in your own worth, you naturally create an environment where genuine attraction can flourish. In conclusion, regaining her interest isn't about sudden grand gestures or desperate attempts to win her back. It's about transforming yourself from the inside out. Instead of chasing her, focus on yourself. That's where the real power lies. Embrace Stoic principles. Control what you can, accept what you can't, and always strive for personal excellence. With each step you take, you're not only building a stronger, more resilient version of yourself, but you're also creating the conditions for a deeper, more authentic connection. Take this advice to heart and let each pause be a moment of reflection. Let your journey towards self-improvement be visible in every action you take, every conversation you have, and every decision you make. In time, not only will you feel better about yourself, but you'll also create a magnetic pull that draws her back, not out of need, but out of genuine admiration for the man you've become. Wrapping it all up, remember that attraction isn't just about fleeting moments or grand gestures. It's deeply rooted in respect, self-control, and emotional independence. When you truly respect yourself and others, when you master your emotions and build your inner strength, you create a connection that's both genuine and lasting. Every step you take to work on your own self-improvement makes you more magnetic and confident, and that is what draws people closer naturally. I hope you found these insights useful today. Taking a moment to reflect on your behavior, communication, and inner resilience can really transform your relationships. We talked about how subtle shifts in behavior, like over-texting, being overly available, or losing that spark of self-confidence, can create distance. And we explored how cultivating respect and leaning into Stoic principles not only helps you manage those challenges, but also gives you the power to regain and even deepen attraction over time. If you've experienced these kinds of situations, or if you have any thoughts on how self-improvement changed your relationships, please share your story in the comments below. Your insights might help someone else who's going through a similar journey. Before we finish, I'd really appreciate it if you liked the video. And if you haven't already, please hit that subscribe button and activate the bell, so you won't miss any future videos filled with practical tips and genuine advice. Thank you for spending this time with me today. I truly hope you found this helpful. Remember, building a better connection starts with taking care of yourself and maintaining respect in every interaction. Keep focusing on your growth. Keep nurturing your inner strength and let that light shine through every part of your life. Stay positive, stay resilient, and remember that every challenge is an opportunity to learn and grow. Thanks again for watching, and I look forward to hearing your thoughts and experiences in the comments. Take care, and I'll see you in the next video.